Welcome back to Touhou, where we talk about the lore and other details of different Touhou characters. This time we're doing a bit of a double special. We're talking about the wicked hermit Seiga Kaku and her loyal undead Yoshika Miyako, both of whom made their debut in the 13th mainline game 10 Desires and have since become a bit of an iconic duo for some. Seiga is one of the few hermits that we know of, powerful beings who have reached near immortality through extensive training. Most of them were once humans, and in the context of Touhou, they remained somewhat aligned with them, standing in opposition to yokai. In Seiga's case, however, she reached this state by faking her own death, using an object to take the place of her body. These are referred to as shikaisen, a type of immortal or shien mentioned in the Taoist text Baoputsu, considered to be the lowest level of immortality due to the previously mentioned requirement. Hermits tend to live in a separate world called senkai. It can be accessed through basically anywhere, though since its entrances are well hidden, they can be near impossible to find for someone who doesn't already know where they are. For a while it wasn't known if Seiga did in fact live there, though recent chapters of the manga Cheating Detective Satori seem to confirm that she does indeed have a residence in this secluded realm. Seiga's fixation on Taoism began with an appreciation for it gained from her father. Despite eventually marrying into the Kaku family, she remained unfulfilled, unable to shake off her true calling, so to speak, until one day she suddenly passed away. She was given a proper burial, though what got buried was not her lifeless body, but rather a bamboo rod made to look like it. And while her family was saddened by her passing, Seiga couldn't be happier as she ran off to finally become a hermit herself. In time, she'd come to be known as a wicked hermit, rejected by heaven for her self-serving personality and, perhaps, another thing that's pretty self-explanatory, her profile also mentions her moving to Japan, with her birthplace most likely being China, which is where Taoism and Shien, the original idea for hermits, are sourced from. At some point, Seiga met with Prince Shotoku, who will later be known as Toyasotomi no Miko, tempting her into using Taoism to achieve superhuman feats, and eventually teaching her the method to become a shikaisen herself. This was all also for her own goals, which are showing off her powers and being kind of a dipshit. However, after arriving in Gisokyo, they would turn rather distant. Miko came to be considered a saint that, while eccentric in her own way, still shows some desire to use her powers and position for the benefit of others. Meanwhile, Seiga continues to roam, looking for the next target of her antics and fending off anyone trying to kill her for good. Seiga's ability, or at least the one pointed out among them, is the refreshingly straightforward passing through walls, which you might think it's, oh, you mean like a ghost, she just faces through, but no, she accomplishes this by carving a temporary hole on it using her hairpin. And we're going with a very loose definition of wall here, as seen in Wild and Horned Hermit, where she straight up digs her way out through the ground. Most of her spellcards, however, are concerned with using her Jiangshi Yoshika, though wall-facing Wormhole from Impossible Spellcard attempts to integrate this ability into her attacks. The name Seiga literally means young beauty, while Kaku means quick or sudden, apparently. To get at what her name is actually referencing though, we must look to Strange Stories from a Chinese Studio, a collection of stories written by Pu Sangling. One of those features a character named Tingu, which is how Seiga's name is read in Chinese. And the entirety of her story is derived from this tale, down to Tingu's wish to follow in her father's steps and achieve immortality, a bamboo pole being used to replace her body, and a magical tool used to dig through walls. This tool was originally a spade in this tale, but a hairpin is also mentioned at one point, which is probably why Sun chose to make it that for his character. Seiga's surname, on the other hand, is pronounced Huo in Chinese, in reference to the other character of this tale, Huo Huan, who Tingu marries. Alright, Seiga also has a nickname, Nian Nian, which doesn't mean what you think it does. Once again, it's a Chinese term for a high-ranking woman or even a goddess. Her debut in 10 Desires mainly shows her protecting the entrance to the Hollow Dreams' Great Mausoleum along with Yoshika. Alternative Facts in Etern Utopia has a few articles where she shows up, but nothing about her specifically. I just wanted to mention it because of this picture where Kogasa is awkwardly trying to space herself from these two. And of course, the famous article found in Symposium of Post-Mysticism where she takes on a reverse Santa Claus role and steals various items to resell them, complete with the implication that Saint Nicholas is a valid candidate for Gisokyo. And honestly, that's a perfect summary of Seiga's character if you ask me. With the title of Wicked Hermit, you'd think she had committed a great deal of heinous acts to earn it, but I mean, yeah, obviously there's the necromancy and complete disregard for the rights of the deceased, but if you just ignore that for a moment, she's just mostly committing petty crime. And as is often the case, you can see some build this character out of contrasting ideas. A hermit, a being that's typically benevolent and helps out those in need, instead using her powers to sate her own whims and just doing whatever she can get away with. Technically, Kassen showed up first, and this dichotomy also exists in her in a different way, but that's for another day. Point is, I just find it neat that we have two hermit characters who are not a perfect image of what they represent. Whatever the case may be, Seiga seems to be pretty content with her life as it is. So all that's left to talk about is her Jiangshi Yoshika, and for that, might as well go in depth into her character as well. Yoshika Miyako is a Jiangshi, a reanimated corpse appearing in Chinese folklore, nowadays comparable to a combination of vampire and zombie. In modern culture, they are usually depicted as being completely stiff, and as such can only move around by hopping on both their legs. Yoshika, however, has been shown to be capable of walking, though her arms do always remain forward. According to Sun, at one point she was meant to resemble Shi and Ko from the Darkstalker series, probably referring to the clothing that Jiangshi are commonly depicted wearing in modern media. Not much is known about Yoshika's past, other than her name references Miyako no Yoshika, a Japanese poet and scholar from the Heian period, and it is sort of implied that they are the same person. In Symposium of Post-Mysticism, it's said that one time she was seen reciting poetry when freed from her master's control. In particular, there are a few versions of the legend describing the encounter of Miyako no Yoshika with the Oni of Rashomon, who is sometimes conflated with the Ibaraki Doji, who you might know was the basis for Ibaraki Kazan. In the very first chapter of Wild and Horned Hermit, Kazan is seen reciting the poem that's said to have been born from the cooperation of Miyako no Yoshika and the Oni of Rashomon, with the first part spoken by the poet while crossing the Rashomon gate, and the second being the reply the Oni gave him. While I don't think that the literal meaning of her name is as important, might as well go over it, it's tradition at this point. Her given name Yoshika means perfume or fragrance, sharing only the last kanji with the poet's name, which honestly all I can think of is it being a poke at her undead status. You know, she probably stinks. Miyako uses completely different kanji, however, and translates literally to Ancient Palace, or it could also be Ancient Princess. Yoshika's ability is the also straightforward eating anything, and additionally, her original profile mentions that were she to bite a human, they would temporarily become a Jiangshi just like her. This ability is very much represented in-game, with spell cards where Yoshika eats the swarming spirits to recover herself, while other attacks use poison as a way to tie in her undead nature. She also appears in Sega's fight as well, being used as a mid-shield more than anything, and showing that while she can be disabled, Seiga is capable of putting her back together as many times as it's needed. While Yoshika can be assumed to just be Sega's servant who blindly follows her every command, well, she is, but she doesn't seem to be completely devoid of any personality. Whether that personality is her own, imposed upon her by Seiga, a result of her deteriorated body, or some combination of the three, we can't really know for sure. And maybe except for the last one, as she does frequently forget what she was supposed to be doing or why she's doing it, such as when she was keeping guard at the graveyard before and during the events of Ten Desires. Whatever the case may be, she seems to be content enough with her life. Or death, I guess. So that's it for this Touhou double special. Originally I picked these two because of that little tidbit about Seiga putting on a bird and robbing houses. This was supposed to go up around the holidays at first, but now jokes aside, I had been wanting to dig into this pair. They were probably the most eye-catching to me out of the 10 Desires cat when I first got to that game, and well, I never really stopped thinking about them. Especially their themes. I don't usually get to talk about that in the series, but they are still some of my favorites from that soundtrack. Despite their lack of appearances, they remain pretty interesting, I think, and whimsical, if you will, and as always I myself got to learn plenty new things about them and their origins while doing the research. I also really hope that my Chinese pronunciation was passable. I had to do quite a few takes of those sections. But what do you think of these two? Do tell me in the comments below, I'd love to hear it. A very special thanks to Tier 3 patron Spectre Skirt, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell, it all helps to support the channel. Join the Patreon to see these videos early along with other perks, and do stop by my streams on Twitch if you have the time. I'll see you in the next one.